Um, Unlike many of y'all, I didn't have the privilege of doing my MBBS here. I studied in Bangalore in St. John's Medical College. And as a child, I used to visit the Bagayam campus because I used to visit my uncle, Dr. P. Zachariah. So, one of the things I remember as a child is going on a cycle to deliver his tea at 3 o'clock to the department. So I've seen your department as a child. He retired in 1990, the year I joined medicine. And while he didn't say anything about it, I remember years later my late aunt telling me that one of his wishes was that I had been sitting here listening to his first lecture. We have heard about the last lecture. Not many of us focus on the first lecture. Many years later, after I completed my training in gastroenterology here, my main interest and passion beyond clinical medicine is teaching, and I was lucky enough to be part of the then nascent medical education department. And Dr. Rashmi Vyas and told me as one of my first tasks, we are planning to integrate across vertical integration. Many of you all know that. And can you put something clinical for the first MBBS students? So I thought about what I'm supposed to do, and I went back to my first lecture in physiology in St. John's, and it's still vividly in my mind. And it was 4 slides on edema, given then by my professor and head, Dr. Prakash Shetty. So I made those slides and made a sort of presentation and gave it to Rashmi, who said, I mean, you have just copied and pasted what we do here in CMC. And I truly didn't know that. And that's when the story was pieced together uh, that Dr. P. Zachariah first came up with those slides for edema, which I'm sure a generation of students heard. And his student was Dr. Prakash Shetty, who was subsequently the head of physiology at St. John's. So I just thought that, in a nutshell, how through education and teaching, 3 generations over different, literally different campuses and cities, went on. So it's a very small anecdote, but it highlighted to me the impact of what a teacher can have. And therefore, I want to say this hall may look empty, but the importance of each of y'all to the institution and the impact that each of y'all will have goes beyond generations and campuses. You all know this, but you're seeing a person who has experienced it. So I'm really, really proud to be standing here and welcoming all of y'all. And I hand over to the moderator, Dr. Vinay.
Thank you, Dr. Uday. Thank you all for coming here, and I'd like to express our gratitude to the administration for giving us this opportunity to um, explore our heritage, revisit our heritage, and share that with you. We'll begin first with a talk by Dr. P. Zachariah, the senior most physiologist who is over here in Vellore. But unfortunately, Dr. P. Zach couldn't make it for this presentation, but we've recorded his video 2 days ago, and so I'll be playing that for you. We'll then follow that by a message from Dr. Sylvia Walter.
Good morning. The topic given for this occasion is homeostasis through the ages. I would like to begin with a word of thanks and appreciation to those who are organizing and coordinating these departmental heritage lectures. These will be a lasting contribution to the institution. Personally, I am very grateful for this opportunity for a walk down the memory lane after almost 70 years. And I apologize for my inability to do this in person. The context of the beginnings of CMC's departments of laboratory sciences was the upgradation of the erstwhile Women's Medical School into the 14th Medical College in the country. While our founder was struggling to develop the teaching faculty, an interesting development occurred. A school teacher in Canada was inspired to undertake medical studies, hoping to be part of Dr. Scudder's humanitarian endeavor. Her name was Dorothy M. Jefferson. When she graduated, Dorothy offered herself for service in Vellore as an independent missionary. Much to her disappointment, she was told that the most urgent need at that point in Vellore was for faculty in the so-called teaching departments. Would Dorothy consider teaching physiology? Putting aside her personal aspirations, she started teaching physiology and later qualified for MSc in physiology from Newcastle. Most of her time in Vellore, she lived in the women's hostel as the hostel doctor, sharing meals with the students. She accepted a CMC salary and retired without a pension either from Vellore or a home church. In her retirement from 1963, she supported herself by teaching in a college of nursing in Canada. Thus, physiology in Vellore owes its inception to the truly selfless, steadfast, lifelong dedication of Dorothy Jefferson. In the 1950s, the preclinical course lasted 2 years, and the load of lectures and practical classes was indeed heavy on the shoulders of the lone qualified physiologist. This was a situation when I graduated in 1954. Responding to the call for teachers, even for a short time, I agreed to work as a junior demonstrator in physiology for just 1 year before I went on with my career plans. In the absence of Dr. Jefferson on long leave, I ended up carrying a heavy load of teaching, and strangely, I enjoyed the challenge to good effect. Predictably, I was pressed to consider the challenge of an academic career in the service of the educational goals of CMC. In accepting this challenge, my primary motive was to strengthen CMC as a service-oriented medical college, and secondly, to do this in physiology, which was where I was exposed to this need. Due to institutional support, I was offered a place for training in Oxford. I must mention that on the eve of my departure for Oxford, Dr. Scudder, our founder, aged 85 at that time, invited me to dinner. This gracious personal gesture was also an example of the seriousness with which the leaders in CMC were embarking on a program of staff development from within the country, mainly centered around its own alumni. In Oxford, I attended classes in physiology for my first year. I then went on to a PhD in the department of Professor Hans Krebs of Krebs cycle fame. My topic was the mechanism of action of insulin on muscle cells. I returned to Vellore in August 1960, a few weeks after the death of our founder. Dr. Jefferson welcomed me warmly and groomed me to take over from her in 2 years' time. Fortunately, Professor P.I. George joined the department at this time, recently retired from service in the Madras Medical College. Also, the department had moved into its present position in the upper floors of the Fleming Block, funded by the Memorial Fund for Alexander Fleming, the discoverer of penicillin. Also, and very importantly, Dr. Sylvia Walter, the best outgoing student of the class of 1950, joined the department as demonstrator. With Dr. George also on our meager faculty, we obtained recognition to register Dr. Walter as the first postgraduate student in the department. She was to become a shining star on our faculty till her retirement in 1993. One of the strong impressions that I had brought away from Oxford was the primacy of the undergraduate program in a university department. In spite of all the advances in knowledge that the university was making, the pride of place in Oxford was still given to the bachelor's program. This trained young people to think critically, master knowledge by themselves, and prepare for their adult life in society. This fitted in well with my own driving interest in CMC as an educational institution for training young people for a lifetime of service in healthcare. Thus, even though the early 1960s was a very difficult period, we, along with the other preclinical departments, began a sustained effort to make the preclinical period a truly transformative educational experience for the future doctors. It helped. The preclinical period was twice as long as it is today. In physiology, we started the practice of weekly tutorial sessions in very small groups. Even as this underwent changes, physiology continued to experiment with different educational methods such as integrated teaching, supervised self-study, and problem-based learning, all of which have now become standard practices. The one conclusion that I have come to after all these years is that education is an open-ended process. No particular method or contribution is perfect. The distinctive contribution of a teacher or a discipline is in the variety, novelty, diversity, and curiosity with which an area of knowledge or practice is presented to the student. Such an educational philosophy should be the distinguishing feature of an aspirational educational institution, even in the prevailing climate of top-heavy standardization and regimentation. A very important development occurred during 1960s. In order to address the persistent shortage of teaching faculty in the laboratory sciences, the Madras University initiated a 3-year MSc program in the laboratory sciences for graduates in biology. CMC joined this program, admitting 2 students annually in each discipline for the next 10 years or so. This was how regular postgraduate courses commenced in our laboratory sciences. The more ambitious among these MScs became available to add to our faculty strength, to establish research programs, and greatly upgrade our laboratories. In physiology, the first of these was Susaya Gunasekaran was. He made significant research contributions and eventually headed the department in the 1990s. He was followed by Ramani Lydia, who did a PhD working on experimental diabetes. She served on the faculty for 6 years. In the latter half of 1960s, our faculty situation became relatively comfortable. Dr. George was still with us. Dr. Sylvia had become faculty. So also Dr. Susan Benjamin, a student of CMC's first MBBS class with an MD from Lucknow. But the most fortunate development for the department was the infusion of new talent into our MD program. The first of these was Prakash Shetty in 1969, an undergraduate of the outstanding batch of 1961. He later left CMC to develop an excellent physiology department in St. John's Medical College and eventually attained international eminence. He was followed next year by Jayaprakash Rao, a medical graduate with a good academic record from Andhra Pradesh. He fortunately cast his lot with CMC and eventually laid the foundations of the department as it is today. Subsequently, we had only an occasional MD student, but none who continued in the department. It was many years before Dr. Sathya joined the department as an MD student. Two other beneficial features of this physiology department may be mentioned. The first was the contribution of experienced faculty retired from government colleges in our formative years. Apart from Dr. George already mentioned, this included Dr. Susan Thomas and Alice George from Kerala. The other helpful feature was the two American missionaries we had on our staff, Dr. Bullard from Florida and Dr. Clarence Collier from Lomel, India. The latter especially facilitated Dr. Walter's PhD program. By the latter half of 1970s, the situation in the physiology department had become quite stable and adequate. I was able to devote a good part of my time to work on the recovery of the institution after a critical period. In those days, headship of departments in CMC and in other institutions was for the rest of one's tenure. By 1984, I had been head of physiology for much too long, and I was allowed to step down in favor of Dr. Walter. It was a joy to continue in the department for another 7 years without administrative responsibilities. Looking back over this entire period, the story of the physiology department was not unlike the other laboratory sciences in CMC. The first 30 years of the medical college was a period of intense struggle, while the early alumni of the college stayed on to develop needy departments, not only for their love of that particular subject, but even more for the progress of their alma mater as a center of service-oriented medical education. In-service postgraduate programs developed initially as a means of staff development. Coming to the present, the duration of teaching in the basic sciences is hardly 1 year, and the teachers have little freedom to teach in their innovative ways. But the first year is still a formative phase in medical education, especially in a residential institution like CMC. If we believe that undergraduate education can be formative in the development of a physician, its first year can be even more so. Our students are greatly privileged to have an outstanding faculty in physiology. The department is also producing well-trained future faculty for other colleges, and its members are adding to new knowledge in the enduring mysteries of homeostasis. It is such a joy and privilege to see this flowering of the humble seeds we planted. Thank you.
It was wonderful to hear from Dr. P. Zachariah. We'll next hear a message from Dr. Sylvia Walter. Dr. Sylvia Walter was the former professor and head of the Department of Physiology. She's unable to be with us now, but a message from her will be read out by Dr. Elizabeth or Renu Tarian, who's also a former head and is a senior professor in the Department of Physiology. Over to you, ma'am.
Message from Dr. Sylvia Walter, former professor and head of the Physiology Department. Greetings to everyone, and my apologies for not being able to address this gathering personally. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Vinay Oommen for this opportunity to share some memories of my 33 years in the Physiology Department of CMC. I loved physiology as a subject and also liked teaching, so this was an easy career choice for me. When I joined the department in 1960 as a demonstrator, Dr. Dorothy Jefferson from Canada was the head. She was a strict disciplinarian, but also a compassionate and very understanding person who took an interest in every staff member's problems, even those of attenders. Initially, the department was not recognized for PG training by Madras University, as Dr. Jefferson did not hold the qualification required by the university. Fortunately, Dr. P.I. George, a physiology professor recently retired from Chennai, soon joined our faculty. Dr. George's arrival and an increase in staff strength enabled the department to eventually get university recognition for PG training. Students greatly appreciated Dr. George's lectures, which were dictated, enabling them to take notes while also following the outline of his class that he used to write on the blackboard. His departmental office was always open to students for clearing their doubts, unlike most other staff members who did not like being disturbed outside the classroom. I was CMC's first postgraduate medical student in physiology. In those days, the medical postgraduate degree for many non-clinical branches like anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry was not an MD but an MSc. This designation was unfortunate and created a lot of confusion because these departments also ran another MSc course for non-medical science graduates. The problem was only resolved many years later when Madras University finally changed the name of their non-clinical medical PG degrees to MD. For my PG course, I chose respiratory physiology as my specific area of study, and my theory and practical exams were both slanted towards this specialty. For the exams, I had to go to Chennai, which was still then called Madras. During the exam with me were two other candidates from local colleges. During the practical, the local candidates received a lot of help from the invigilators and attenders, especially for the animal experiments. This help sometimes turned out to be wrong and led to unfortunate consequences for the Madras candidates. But I was able to obtain a first class. By this time, Dr. Jefferson had retired and the headship of the department had fallen to Dr. P. Zachariah upon his return from Oxford after obtaining his doctorate. He introduced the idea of small group learning, a teaching learning method for which we coined the name Oxford Tutorials. He also initiated the evaluation of staff performance by students. Departmental staff strength improved steadily over the years. Dr. Marcus Devanandan A neurophysiologist with a doctorate from Australia added a new dimension with his fascination for the muscle spindle. Some of our own younger medical and science graduates also joined the department for various periods of time. One of them was Dr. S. Gunasekaran, who became a permanent faculty, did extensive and focused research, and went on to obtain a DSc, Doctorate of Science. In the late 1960s, I took a year and a half of study leave to go to the UK to work with Dr. J. E. Coates, a pulmonary physiologist and author of a well-known book on lung function. I took my 3 young children with me, and our family lived in South Wales during this time. On my return, I started working towards my doctorate under the guidance of Dr. C.R. Collier, a senior professor recruited to our department while on sabbatical leave from the University of Southern California. Dr. Collier helped me to get essential equipment for my research and was very patient and understanding with my frequent inability to keep to the schedule he had prescribed for my studies. My doctoral thesis was on the effects of cigarette smoking on lung function in young asymptomatic smokers. My doctoral thesis, my subjects were our own medical students who enthusiastically and faithfully came for repeated tests even when it was not convenient for them to do so. I will always be grateful to them for the cooperation and support they showed. I recall an amusing incident that occurred around this time. My doctoral work required the use of a polygraph which I had installed in my office. One day, having stepped out of that room for a short while, I returned to find a huge monkey seated in front of the machine and twiddling its knobs. He had a professorial air and seemed to reproach me for not attending to my work. Unfortunately, I could not record that moment as I did not have a camera with me. My office window, which I had left open, communicated with a terrace that happened to be one of the haunts of the rhesus tribes that lived in the college campus. Undergraduate practical classes also turned up some classics. One such incident happened soon after I had just finished demonstrating the use of the oil immersion lens. When the students tried it for themselves, one fellow removed the eyepiece from his microscope and was about to pour the immersion oil down the microscope tube. Fortunately, I stopped him in time. Interestingly, this particular student later became a brilliant surgeon and also authored many publications. It just goes to show how unreliable it is to judge a person's potential solely from one silly performance early in their professional career. During my time, medical students were also required to perform frog experiments, something not done these days. Frogs were caught on a regular basis by a designated frog man and sold to the physiology department. The experiments mainly involved studying the response of the skeletal muscle or heart of the frog to different stimuli. One such exercise involved perfusion of the isolated heart with Ringer's solution in order to study the effects of various drugs on cardiac contractility. While the heart was being perfused, it would distend quite impressively, causing many naive students to cry frantically, "It's going to burst! It will burst!" only to find that nothing of the kind happens. The years went by rapidly. After getting my doctorate, I compiled all my research publications and obtained a DSc, Doctor of Science, based on that, just before retiring in 1993. Looking back at myself and my colleagues in the department, I can see what a sundry lot we were. Some were friendly, some distant, and some even pompous. A few were very talented in other fields like music and acting. Looking back at the overall growth of research in the department, I think that the entry of non-medical science personnel was an important factor. They were eager to do a doctorate and therefore applied for various research grants, which enabled them to obtain much needed research equipment for the department. Now, with the next generation of physiologists at the helm, I am sure the department will achieve even more growth and success in the future. I thank one and all for patiently listening to my message. Sincerely, Dr. Sylvia Walter.
Thank you, ma'am. It was wonderful to hear the message from Dr. Sylvia Walter. We'll now hear from Dr. Gunasekaran. Dr. Gunasekaran was a former professor and the head of the Department of Physiology. Over to you, sir.
Good morning. Before I start my lecture, I would like to thank the physiology department. I retired almost 17 years back. In spite of that, I have the same affection and respect from the department. I also thank my professors, Dr. Sylvia and Dr. Zachariah, who trained me, and I had an opportunity to work with them. So I like to thank them, and I'll start my talk. I'll be talking about the establishing the diabetic research, infrastructure additions to the department. First, I will say the changes that has taken place in the preclinical department's teaching. The first one is the duration of the teaching. In 1942 to 1965, the duration of the teaching of the preclinical departments was 2 years. From 1965 to 1995, the duration of the teaching of the preclinical department was 1.5 years. From the year 1995 onwards, the duration of the preclinical department teaching has come to 1 year. Almost 25 years I have taught the 1.5 years course in physiology, and after that I taught the 1 year course in physiology. The second important change was from the inception of our medical college 1942 till 1980, MMC Madras Medical College was the University Examination Center. All the students, undergraduates and postgraduates, theory and practical examinations were held in MMC Madras Medical College. All our students will go to Madras and they were treated as MMC students and the exams were conducted. The second important change is the changes in the practicals. Initially, for the MBBS students, the practicals included blood experiments, human experiments, frog skeletal muscle experiments, frog heart experiments. All these experiments the students has to do. It was, and in the university examinations, they have to perform all the 4 experiments. The students who went to Madras, they also have to perform all the 4 experiments in MMC. We also demonstrated the MBBS students rat experiments and dog experiments. These experiments were demonstrated in the physiology department, but there was no exam. Concerning the practicals for the PG students in physiology, they had blood experiments, human experiments, frog skeletal muscle experiments, frog heart experiments, rat experiments, and dog experiments. And in physiology, the dog experiments and the rat experiments were held in the mammalian lab. So this was going till 1995. Recently, what I heard from Dr. Sathya is that the blood experiments and the human experiments are kept. The frog skeletal muscle experiments, the frog heart experiments, and the rat experiments and the dogs experiments at present being discontinued. The third important change is the faculty. MD students to become teachers in preclinical departments were very few in those years. In physiology department, 1970 to 1980, for a decade, there was only one student, Dr. Prakash Rao. From 1980 to 1990, another decade, there were two students, Dr. Kalyani and Dr. Arup Banerjee. From 1990 to 2000, for a decade, there was only one student, Dr. Sathya. So if you look at from 1970 to 2000, for 30 years, we had only 4 MD students in physiology. Dr. Prakash Rao joined in 1970 to MD course. I joined in the same year, 1970, as a PG student in physiology. Dr. Kalyani, graduate of CMC, took MD here, taught for a year, went to Canada and then left. Dr. Arup Banerjee from Calcutta completed and went to Calcutta back. Only Dr. Sathya has stayed from that time till now. If you look at that, Dr. Prakash Rao and me were looking for a permanent faculty with MD degree. We have to wait almost 20 years to have Dr. Sathya as a MD student and a permanent faculty. Dr. Prakash Rao is a graduate of Guntur Medical College, Guntur. I am a graduate of St. Joseph's College, Trichy, and Dr. Sathya is a student of Coimbatore Medical College. So all the three of us who were running the department in that crucial time were outsiders, are not graduates of CMC. What is the reason for the students not taking up MD in physiology, anatomy, and biochemistry? Some of the reasons are there were only 8 medical government colleges in Tamil Nadu at that time and CMC. There was no private medical college at that time. So that may be a reason that PG students are not recruiting in anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry. So who will teach the preclinical subjects to the students? So the CMC and MMC trained science graduates in 3 years course. It was a 3 years course in the Faculty of Medicine in preclinical and paraclinical subjects. So these students, they will become teachers and researchers in future. If you look at physiology department with MSc in medical physiology, Dr. Parameshwaran and Dr. Suresh, they taught and they left. Dr. Ramani took her PhD and she was here for a faculty few years, as Dr. Zachariah has mentioned. And Dr. Gunasekaran got the degree and in the department till the retirement. In MSc in medical anatomy, almost the department was managed by the science graduates with a PhD degree and MS degree. Dr. Deepa, you may not know. Dr. Flossie Thomas, an excellent teacher. She also, like Dr. Prakash, she also went to St. John's Medical College. Dr. Prakash Shetty went from physiology to physiology St. John's. Dr. Flossie left CMC and went as a teacher in St. John's Medical College. Dr. Selvakumar, you all know that. Dr. Madhavi, Dr. Inbam, Dr. Indrani, and Dr. Suma. I'm sure most of you would have been taught by these doctors in anatomy department. In MSc in medical biochemistry, Dr. Wilfred, Dr. Dayagni, and Dr. Pramila. I'm sure she also taught all of you. Among them, I think Dr. Pramila is the only one who is in service now. Okay, now next comes the diabetic research and the diabetes laboratory. In physiology, 1973, the equipment available were this: an ordinary centrifuge, a vortex mixie, an oven, and water bath, a pH meter, a balance, and a spectrophotometer. That's all the experiments available in physiology. Dr. Zachariah, we used to call him PSAC, said, Gunam, let us start the diabetic research with the available equipment in physiology. I already mentioned the available equipment in physiology at that time. If we wait for the equipment, we will never start research in CMC. So it was very clear. If you wait for equipment, you cannot. So Guna said, I used to be called Gunam by my professors, Dr. Zachariah and Dr. Sylvia, Guna by my students. Then I said, yes, sir, let us start the research. So what was the state? Monkeys were kept in dog cages in a hut. The dog cages were big, and they used to put 3-4 dogs in a cage, and we had to take the cage for PG experiments. The same cage was available, and when the gypsies will put 3-4 monkeys, I have to catch one monkey at a time, go for research. Wherever they were kept, there was no animal house, so they were kept under the hut. Then there was no operation facilities. It was operated on the PG dog experiment table. The PGs will be doing dog experiment. I used to operate the monkeys on the same table. Then the research was carried out in PG mammalian laboratory. There was no research laboratory in physiology at that time. When there is no equipment in physiology, I have to run around to other departments for the equipment. For metal tube in the centrifuge, the RIS centrifuge is very small. You need a pilot tube so that you can put inside. That was not available in physiology. I have to go to biochemistry department every time. I have to use it and give it back. Then for the radioactivity, for the Packard gamma counter, I have to go to Williams Research Building every time. For a tissue histology, I have to go to pathology department for the histological studies. If I want to take any photography, I have to go to anatomy. Then we have to lyophilize the anti-serum. So I have to go to IVPM, Institute of Veterinary Preventive Medicine in Ranipet. Even now it is functioning. I have to go there every time and get the lyophilized done. Then guinea grass, Dr. Zachariah was growing in his home. I have to get. So over the 5 years, I was running all these departments doing the research. And finally, the important thing was Dr. Zachariah and me established the radio immunoassay first time in India in the year 1974. We raised our own antibodies for insulin, titrated the antibodies, and established insulin first time in India. In this year, there was no ELISA, there was no immunocytochemistry, no photochemistry, nothing was there, only RIA, and it was established first time in physiology department. Okay, now Dr. Zachariah wants the islets to be isolated. In 1975, it was possible to isolate the islets from the rat. The rat, when you inflate, it becomes a jelly and the isolation becomes very easy. That technique was available in USA and in physiology department. Islet isolation in primate, in those days, it was thought it is not possible because the pancreas of the primates was compact and the pancreas of the primate was fibrous. So all over the world, they thought it is not possible. Then Dr. P. Zachariah took up the challenge. He said, let us try the isolation of islets using the local monkeys, the local fellows running around. Scientifically, they are called Macaca radiata. In English, we call Indian bonnet monkeys. The collagenase digestion method was used. You know, the collagenase is an enzyme. It will digest the proteins. So you control and digest the pancreas so that the acinar cells are digested and the islets is kept intact. That is the method in which you can isolate the islets from the rat, and we have to apply to the monkeys. Then I have conducted 80 isolation experiments over a period of 10 months. There are 4 variables you can change: the concentration of the collagenase that you are using, and the duration of incubation, and the movement, the frequency of the movement, and the extent of the movement. So with the 4 parameters, I was trying all the combinations and permutation combinations for 80 experiments over a period of 10 months. Result unsuccessful. Isolation of experiment with monkey paralytic islets. In a week, we used to do 2. In a month, 8. In 10 months, it was 80. Result was failure. Guna definitely depressed. Then 10 months have gone. I have to write a report to the ICMR. What report am I going to write? Then Guna is thinking of running away from physiology to go to the native village. So I was putting my head like this, and I was on the table. I was thinking that 10 months gone, 80 experiments, all the parameters gone, report out to ICMR what to do. Then one gentle hand touched my shoulder. I looked up. Dr. Zachariah was standing. He knows obviously what is happening to me. Then he said, Gunam, don't give up. The one word he said at that time of depression, Guna, don't give up. At the 100th attempt, I was able to isolate 100 islets per gram monkey pancreas. So using these islets, Dr. Zachariah and me studied the histology of the monkey islets, proved the viability of the isolated islets of monkeys, and studied the insulin secretory characteristics of the monkeys. This is the first time in the world a primate pancreatic was isolated and its insulin secretory characteristics were studied. So far, the insulin secretory characteristics for the rat only known. This is the first time we studied in the primate. And this was published in Diabetes. Remember, this is a journal of the American Diabetic Association, top journal in America in the world. And it was published in Diabetologia, the journal of the European Diabetics Association. These 2 publications made our department and Dr. Zachariah and me all over the world. It is possible to isolate the primate islets with the difficulty we both of us faced. We informed the scientific community of the world that isolation of the pancreatic islets is possible. Now, physiology animal house with an operation theater. This is the first addition to the physiology department. This is the only one structure in CMC which was built without the request of the department. How? Dr. Pulimud was the principal. I was catching the monkey under the hut in the ground floor. That means in pharmacology, this side, physiology, there was a small animal house. In between the ground, the hut was put. I was catching the monkey from the dog cage. To learn the monkey, to catch the dog, my gypsy friends trained me. I was catching. Dr. Pulimud, principal, was walking that side. He came to me. He said, Gunasekaran, what are you doing? Sir, I am catching the monkeys from the dog cage because there is no monkey cage. Then he said, can a scientist will keep a monkey, animals in a hut? Then I said, there is no place available. So he went back, and then after 1 month, we got a letter from the principal's office. Administration is willing to provide an animal house with theater. So they gave the animal house. It was helped to the other surgeons also with preoperative, and we gave anesthesia and also post-operative care, so that lot of surgeons came to physiology and they were using. Among them, from the Department of Surgery, Dr. Prakash Kanturi, Dr. Annaya, and Dr. Bhushnam, and Dr. George Matthew, they all came and they were using the animal house. Similarly, in pediatric surgery, Dr. Swiftson, Dr. Gordon Thomas, Dr. Ashok Rijwani, Dr. Shalini were doing. Urology, Dr. Ganesh Gopalakrishnan Lionel. Orthopedics, Dr. Sundarraj and Sendil, and Chandran Yanamuthu, Naila, and several other experiments were done. And when during inspection committee, they used to say, nowhere in the country surgeons spend the time in physiology department. The second addition was the diabetic research laboratory. When I got the first DST grant, the institution gave the second addition, that is the diabetes laboratory, and Dr. Pulimud became the director. In that, we are able to isolate large-scale isolar monkey islets for the culture and also for the transplantation. We studied microscopic and immunocytochemistry. Then we carried out the xenotransplantation in monkey islets into rat. And we proved the reversal of diabetes in rat with various immunosuppressants. And these experiments formed the foundation for the today's clinical islet transplantation in IDDM patients. I like to mention three of my PhD students, Dr. Balamurugan, Dr. Daisy, and Dr. Rebecca, for helping me. And we had excellent research collaboration with Dr. Bhanumati, Pathology Department, Dr. Anna Pulimud, Williams Building, Dr. Sugesh, Clinical Hematology, Dr. Naila, Nuclear Medicine, Dr. Mohammed in Hematology. We had excellent publication with all of them. Then the second addition to the physiology department was the research laboratory in the second floor. This is given when we got the first DST grant in our institution in 1920. When the first grant was announced, we applied and got it. It was 50 lakhs rupees for a single researcher at that time. From that time, we went to the higher animal, namely the white pigs. From the monkeys, we had to go for the pigs before we go to the human transplantation. If a pig is about 30 kilos, we will get 30-gram pancreas. Before the isolation of the human, we went there. We are able to isolate the white pigs also. We got the legal and ethical clearance to receive the pancreas from the brain dead organ donors and to isolate the islets from them. We are waiting to get the pancreas and the organ donors by the time I have to retire from the department. Then we are also conducting laparoscopic training in the pigs. Dr. Gunasekaran was in charge, and various departments were coming and practicing laparoscopic surgery here. And then external research fronts, we got DST, ICMR, DBT, and all the things. And research was my passion, and to be a good teacher, I was doing research, all these things. But my appointment in physiology was as a teacher, and training is a top priority. So I took teaching more important. I taught 73 to 2009, 38 batches of medical, nursing, and allied health students. I enjoyed and loved the teaching much more than my research. I used to prepare the lectures. Every time I prepare the lecture, it will be in simple language, well organized diagrams I used to draw. Never cancel a lecture because of my heavy research. Then the first computer was bought in principal's office by Dr. Bhushanam and physiology by me. And I'll read this. Aunt Ida's compassion for the less privileged living in our neighboring campus. The Vellore Central Jail was built by British in 1867. It has a chapel inside, Vellore Prison Ministry. 1973, Dr. Gunasekaran and Professor J. Pandiraj, Uris College, joined the jail department, supported by the physiology department and the head of the department, Dr. P. Zachariah. In 1987, Dr. Bhushanam made it as a support by the CMC. Sunday afternoons, we gather in the chapel. We will have songs, message, sharing, listening, tell God's love and forgiveness to the inmates. Help to the inmates. We encourage them to study and prepare them for the exams outside. Then we help them to train the skills like tailoring. Medical camps are conducted by medical camps, eye camps, and skin camps. Okay. Then the inmate children. They are the worst affected when a person comes to the jail, and they are called as the secondary victims. So we help to educate these children in residential educational institutions. We pay their tuition fee. Rehabilitation after release. If we needed, we pay the tuition fees and help the release of them. Then help them the self-employment, like sewing machine, grinder, cow, goat, setting of small shops. Then Christmas celebrations, mutton biryani we used to give, music, dance, drama, and Christmas gift. Then finally, two teaching faculty in physiology were awarded the degree of Doctor of Science. The degree of Doctor of Science in the Faculty of Medicine is the highest degree of the university, awarded to a scientist holding a PhD degree for what? Contributing a body of original knowledge in the medical field, focusing on one topic of research with different aspects. It is usually awarded at the end of the career, and no research guide evaluated by university in 3 JSs. This is my final slide. The first DSE in our institution by Dr. Sylvia Walter on the studies of peripheral airways of lungs and inhaled pollutants by the MGR University. The second DSE in our institution was myself on monkey islets, isolation, infrastructure, culture, and xenotransplantation given by the University of Madras. Both the teachers, both of me and Dr. Sylvia, were having progressive teaching appointments in physiology from junior lecturer to professor and head. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I invite Dr. Sathya Subramani, a senior professor in the Department of Physiology, who was also the former head, to tell us about the research programs and the teachings in MD Physiology.
Thank you, Vinay, for that opportunity. The heritage of any institution is in the stories of its human capital. Physiology has had a rich legacy of committed faculty, and everything else that it has therefore fell in place. I joined in CMC in 1991 as non-PG registrar, the year Professor Zachariah was retiring, and I missed the privilege of his mentoring. I heard so much about him from others here and was all the more sad that I was not fortunate enough to have had his tutelage. I have heard from his students that when he spoke about the membrane potential of the sinoatrial cell, he would say that it has no real resting membrane potential. In fact, it has a restless membrane potential. What an awesome statement, given that there is no true potential at which the sinoatrial cell dwells, even for a millisecond. I have long admired the beauty of that statement and continue to state in class even today. I recommend that you watch Dr. Zachariah's heritage lecture on YouTube, recorded in 2021. That would give you a flavor of physiology teaching in his times. I missed a bounty. I was, however, lucky to have had Dr. Sylvia Walter's teaching and mentoring for 2 full years. I will get to that a little later. Coming here from a government setting, the first thing that struck me in this department was a total lack of hierarchy. The second impression that struck me was that the faculty of preclinical departments had their hands full of work, not just teaching, but research that mattered. The first person I met when I arrived at the Bagayam campus was Dr. Prakasarao. I saw him on the road in front of the chapel, pillion riding on a bicycle with his PhD student Stanley. I stopped him to ask the way to physiology. Dr. Rao jumped off the cycle and welcomed me in. That augured what was to come. I took the entrance exam and joined the department as PG in 1992. I was called the candidate of the decade. The one who came after me was Carol Vijayanand in 2000, but since then we've had a steady flow of postgraduates, which has played a crucial role in taking the department to its present stature. 66 students over the past 25 years. I saw the transition of the UG Physiology course from its 18 months duration to the current 11 months in 1995. That was a painful change because I still remember the steady pace at which freshers in medical school soaked in the basic sciences, getting a strong foundation before entering the clinic. Students of today still have to learn all of it, but in much less time. And I'm amazed at how many of them can handle it effortlessly. But I still think a lot more learning can happen in the majority of the class with more time in the first year. With the 18-month UG course, we had amphibian practicals, and I learned a great deal from that. There were 2 semesters in physiology and 6 practical sessions a week for 2 batches. We had our hands full, what with demonstrations and record correction. The records were not like what we have today. Students had the liberty of writing long answers in multiple pages, and some of the records were as good as manuscripts. I learnt a great deal correcting those records. I was impressed by the rigor with which practical sessions were conducted. The demonstrators were meticulously trained in the practical the previous week. We had to practice the amphibian and hematology experiments well enough to be able to demonstrate well. I used to be scared of the batch of 1990, my first batch. Some of the questions which students had during those practical sessions have shaped my career. Dr. Sylvia Walter would demonstrate every practical to medical students at one table, along with us. She would stay till the last student finished and then call me to her office to discuss more science. What an enjoyable time that was. Her theory classes were legendary, especially neurology classes. I learned the way to learn neurology from her. I have maintained her paradigm of detailing inputs and outputs of every region and nucleus in the brain and spinal cord. Function followed naturally thereafter. Notes taking was so easy, her notes would be better than any textbook, and the notes were passed on from year to year. I would refer to Dr. Prakasarao's headship as the golden era of physiology during my time. The quote that a leader is someone who does not make you feel he is the leader is apt for Dr. Rao. It was during Dr. Rao's times that the ASHA lab, the Common Basic Science Laboratory in Bagayam campus, came into existence. It was during Dr. Rao's tenure that Dr. Suresh Devasahayam joined the department briefly before founding the Department of Bioengineering here. Suresh was Dr. Suranjan Bhattacharya's find, and we at Physiology, as well as many other departments in CMC, have benefited from Suresh's machines that he built for us from scratch. Our department now builds instruments even for IIT Delhi, and the legacy is from Suresh. Dr. Rao's motto was to do research with very little monetary input, and the papers that came from him were superb. Dr. Rao's contributions to the department were the everted gut sac experiments to study transport across epithelial membranes and frog skin experiments. Frog skin is the equivalent of mammalian kidney. It can absorb and secrete. He used what's called an Using's chamber. What you see here is something that I've seen in some of the hospital labs in CMC. Each unit would cost a few lakhs. And, it was a lot of investment. Rather than apply for grants, Dr. Rao chose to build his own Using's chamber for just 25 rupees. He got Suresh to make a voltage clamp. And that's the setup. Dr. Sylvia, with us here, did her PhD with Dr. Rao on the frog skin. And the output was papers and journals as good as experimental physiology. He would speak about physiology at the molecular level with just electrical experiments. Even after his retirement, he continued to publish on the latest in science. He would talk about an electron transport chain in the plasma membrane with exotic experiments that only he had the capacity to read up, dream of, and design. I learned from Dr. Rao that simple experiments without much expenditure can lead to great insights. After Dr. Rao, I've seen that passion for trying new avenues in Dr. Susai Manikam, our Associate Research Officer, who holds our torch high, assisting undergraduates and postgraduates in benchwork. He's an important part of our legacy. I learned from Dr. Gunasekaran the importance of securing external funding for research. The idea of cell culture was new to physiology at that time, and even today there are very few physiology departments in the country which do research with cells. Dr. Zachariah initiated the legacy of diabetes research, and Dr. Gunasekaran carried it forward with islet isolation from animal pancreas and built civil infrastructure which has enabled us all to function efficiently without space constraints. Elsie, Neetu, and Kavin, our young faculty, are all doing extensive cell-based work today, and I'm very happy that we've maintained the legacy left by Dr. Zachariah and Dr. Gunasekaran. Dr. Marcus Devanandan requires a special mention for cultivating the spirit of inquiry in our department. Soon after his MBBS at CMC, he went to VP Chest Institute, Delhi, and worked in A.S. Paintel's lab. Paintel was a pioneering physiologist who discovered the J reflex, as it is called today, and so many other cardiac reflexes that we learn about. Paintel also served as director of ICMR. From Paintel's lab, Marcus went on to earn a PhD from Sir John Eccles's lab at the time when Eccles won the Nobel Prize. Marcus's work on nerve pathways from periphery up to the cortex is legendary. His demonstration that horseradish peroxidase, a chemical used to trace nerve pathways, actually jumped synapses in retrograde transmission made eyes pop. I was fortunate to have worked with him for 2 years till his untimely demise in 1997. He taught peripheral nervous system, especially muscle spindle physiology, to medical students. Though Marcus's classes were relaxation times for some, if not many, undergraduates, his classes were beyond compare for a PG student like me. I still relish the discussions I've had with him. He taught me how to perform Otto Louis' classical double heart experiment. It was not a regular practical. It demonstrated that transmission across the synapse was not electrical, but through a chemical. The experiment won Otto Louis his Nobel Prize. Marcus told me that I was one of very few in the world to have a recording like that, showing a peculiar phenomenon, not Otto Louis' observation alone, but something more. I don't have time to discuss that here. IJPP, the Indian Journal of Physiology and Pharmacology, came up with an obituary for Marcus, and whatever I have not said earlier, I will read out from there. He demonstrated for the first time presynaptic inhibition in motor neurons with muscle stretch, a natural stimulus. It is a standard example for presynaptic inhibition in today's teaching. All his work of fundamental importance is quoted in various textbooks, including Gray's Anatomy. He was awarded various national prizes for his research. He was elected to the Fellowship of the National Academy of Medical Sciences in 1980 and to the Fellowship of the Royal Society of Medicine in 1991. Before I conclude, there are just 2 events that I wish to share with you. When the Indian government wanted to prepare a Vision 2015 document for the medical curriculum, the privilege of convening the meetings and preparing the document was vested with CMC. Dr. George Matthew, the then principal, was a chairperson of the committee. Our department prepared the draft for physiology with many weeks of work involving all of us, and then it was vetted and approved by other physiologists in the country. The same document was adopted by the TN MGR Medical University at that time. When the university committee convened to discuss the curriculum, I handed them the document which we already had prepared for MCI. One of the members who was not there when the meeting started reviewed it and accused me of plagiarism, said I just lifted it out of the MCI site and called it CMC's. I had to explain that the MCI document was prepared by us too. It has undergone some revisions now, though. I'm also happy to share that a government initiative called NPTEL, National Program for Technology Enhanced Learning, now under DTH Swayamprabha, DTH for Direct to Home, hosts video lectures in the pre and paraclinical subjects. I've been coordinator for the physiology lectures. We had very good statistics of viewership, but the government moved the YouTube site from channel 15 to channel 34, and we lost all our statistics. Now, just before I conclude, I just learned that Dr. Collier, who is Dr. Sylvia Walter's PhD advisor, was from the University of Southern California. I spent 1 whole year of my study leave in the University of Southern California as well. I am ever so grateful to the Almighty for enabling me to be part of the rich fabric of physiology in this unique institution. I've had a fantastic ride with my past and present colleagues and wish the department the very best in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sathya. Friends, I'm Dr. Vinay Oommen. I'm a professor and currently the head of the Department of Physiology. I'll just give you a very quick run through of where we are now and a few steps for our future. I'd like to acknowledge and thank God for his guidance and support for the department until now, the administration of CMC for this opportunity to relook at our history, for all the faculty and staff past who have brought us to where we are, the current faculty for their efforts and enthusiasm, our students, UG and PGs, from whom we've learned so much and still continue to learn, those who are present here and those online, the archives department, Dr. Reena, the council office, and Dr. Latif for taking many of the photographs that we see here. A few pictures. This is Dr. Dorothy Jefferson, Dr. P, who is the founder of our department. This is her with Dr. Kamala Vaithalingam and Ms. Dorothy Scudder in 1940. This is the time when the physiology department was being constructed, that is in 1961. This is an excerpt of a council minutes showing how we got a donation from the Fleming Memorial Fund and why that's called the Fleming Block. This is Dr. Dorothy with Dr. P. Zach, Dr. Marcus, and Miss Victoria Theophilus and Miss Marjorie Van Rankin. Dr. Dorothy Jefferson here with Ms. Baker and Ms. Trevor Marshall. This is much younger Dr. Pizak. I think we may not recognize him for those of us who've seen him now. This is Dr. P.I. George. This was also mentioned. He was a professor who joined from Chennai after to help out in the initial years. This is Dr. Gunasekaran at the expansion of the laboratories. Dr. Gunasekaran talked about the first computer that came in, which was in CMC. This was a much younger Dr. Gunasekaran at that point in time. Physiology was also very fortunate to have an ASHA grant, which established the Basic Science Lab in 2006 that gave us an electrophysiology lab, a clinical physiology lab, and a cell culture facility, which has been extensively used, all these three labs. So the clinical physiology lab, led by Dr. Elizabeth Orenutarian, we do studies in cardiac autonomic function, exercise physiology, respiratory physiology, and muscle physiology. We have an electrophysiology lab where we do patch clamp experiments and patch on various types of cells. We do a lot of whole animal experiments where we have developed an animal intensive care system where we are able to keep a small animal under anesthesia for many hours and record beat to beat blood pressure, ECG, respiratory movements, etc., and even bring the animal out of anesthesia. We've got a cell culture facility with 2 cell culture facilities that are used extensively by many departments in the Bagayam campus. We have a lot of work done on phytochemistry by Dr. Sathya Subramani and team who've done a lot of work on odovanthuli poisoning. We have a HPLC system. Dr. Suzai Manikam is the person who's the expert there. And we've now got the ability to isolate plant chemicals or plant extracts to single peak purity for certain compounds. Dr. Elsie Clarence Dr. Elizabeth Vinod does a lot of work on the translational work on stem cell work in the stem cell center. So that's a lot of the work that she has done with her team. We also have Dr. Sathya and team do a lot of work on blood pressure and non-invasive measurement of blood pressure. We've developed a novel method to record blood pressure, and we've secured national and international patents for the same. Physiology continues to do a lot of tissue experiments. A lot of our faculty are involved in that. We do a Langendorf perfusion of the heart, isolated tissue experiments on rat, on chicken, and different intestines, on different tissue that's available. We've developed a recording studio with the help of the administration and the NPTEL grant, where we do recording of NPTEL lectures, and this studio is also used for recording teaching material by other departments. We've got a immunocytochemistry lab, immunohistochemistry, immunofluorescence. Once again, Dr. Susai leads this and offers excellent services to different departments. These are images taken from our own department. Recently, there has been, in the last 1 month or 2 months, there's been a plan to start a multidisciplinary research unit. This is funded by the Department of Health Research, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and we're quite excited about this. This will be in the place where the ASHA lab is. Coming to teaching, we now teach, while we initially started medicine, nursing, and a few AHS courses, now we have about 20 AHS courses, an MTech in clinical engineering, and a PhD program. Certain things in physiology remain the same. That's the entrance to our department, the corridors to our department, the signage, the entrance, certain things are the same. That's the iconic F1 lecture hall, which I think has stayed reasonably the same. That's the F2 lecture hall, or the lecture hall that's above the F1, where a lot of practical discussions were being done. That's been slightly modified. It's 50% the same, 50% changed. We do some student practicals also there. This is the hematology labs. Microscopes have got upgrades from monocular to binocular, etc. This is the amphibian labs. No more amphibians, but the lab is still there. PG teaching goes on formally, informally, and different sessions here. I'll stop here reading out and from a statement which we were fortunate to find in a 1963 annual report that was written by Dr. P. Zachariah, and I'll read this out if it's not very clearly written. Dr. P. Zachariah then stated, "The most needed item undoubtedly is a suitable and stable staff. till we can build up an adequate echelon of experienced and qualified staff. This is before ChatGPT. The tutorial system as well as the plans for postgraduate training and research will remain far from fruition. This, of course, is a vicious circle, and the only way of breaking it seems to be at last to get at least an adequate number of temporary junior staff. It will also prove a great help if suitable secretarial and technical assistance is provided so that the professional time of senior staff may be conserved for better use. I think it's fair to say that we've got an adequate echelon of experienced and qualified staff now. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure revisiting our history, and thank you for giving us the opportunity of sharing it with you. And we look forward to what we can do as a department for the institution and for God's purpose in the future. Thank you very much.